All right, another entry in my 73 Canadian short stories that you could read during the COVID-19 pandemic, curated by Kevin Hardcastle. This time, I don't know about this week, is What You Need by Andrew Forbes, which is a story about bros getting together, drinking their beer on the drinking the beer on the roof of building a deck. You know, it's a hot night. Um, Richie is the I think it's the younger brother has come back and to see his older brother Jim, Jamie, Jim, or Jimbo, depending on who's talking to him, who's a teacher at a school, and Jim is married to Janet, Jim and Janet, and they're uh, they've got two kids. Jim is a teacher at school. Jim is also having an affair with Brenda, a English teacher at his school. Richie has come back and he's still carrying a flame for Janet. Janet, who is this very kind of sturdy, kind of got lots of like little nicks and scars, but is not sturdy, just vital woman who he's holding a torch for, and apparently in their past he had hooked up with. Um, and there's a lot of things in this store because, like, Jim's like, oh, let's go pick up some items from the store to do it to get the deck together. And but oh, I got to stop off, and he stops off, and it seems like he's stopping off to show off Brenda, who is this his other woman, which it seems like it's just one of those kind of dumb kind of midlife crisis kind of affair things of, like, he just wanted something to kind of remind him that he's still I'm still a guy or whatever. It's like it's not like he's going to leave Janet and the kids or anything. It's just like he's got this other thing on the side to inject whatever into his life. Um, Within this story, there's also just a kind of a recurring thread of, because they're bros who are drinking their beer and talking about I think it's baseball. It's like, it's the loyalty to the teams, like, the Royals or the Cubs and all this stuff. And it's just like, this seems to be a metaphor for, is it loyalty of what's Jim's faithfulness to Janet? Not much. What is Richie's Richie says, like, I would never tell my brother that I'd had this kind of little night with Janet, because it's sort of, they were already kind of going together. So it was sort of a betrayal that way. Um, and at the end of the story, Jim gets drunk. He goes off to bed. The kids are off to bed, and Janet's there at the end, and this story has got a kind of a weird, because it's told through the point of view of Richie. It's got kind of a strange kind of erotic charge to it, I guess, is what I can say. Is like, he's obviously still lusting over Janet. He doesn't have his own relationship. He is the city boy, but he's had meaningless kind of sexual encounters, but he hasn't found the woman to settle down with. And he's obviously just kind of staring at Janet, and she kind of just turns to him and just kind of looks at him, and it's like, you got what you need? He's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm going off to bed then. And she goes off to bed, and that's the end of the story. And it's like, okay, I guess you know it's one of these kind of, like, at the beginning of the story when they're talking about, like, oh, they're bros and they're drinking, and it's like, oh, you've got two women, and it's like, oh, you don't have any women. No, it's like, I was thinking, it's like, well, is this going to be some kind of a thing of, like, what's Richie's sexuality? But no, Richie is just apparently always had the hots for Janet and has never been able to. It's got a very kind of, if this had been written for Playboy magazine, at the end it would be like, oh, they'd have hot sex together. But of course, it's a literary story, so in the thing, it's more just Janet going, you got what you need? What you need? Got what you need, Richie? Richie with his adolescent boy name. He's Richie. I mean, Jamie has become Jim, which I guess is kind of maybe an adult name, but he's also called Jimbo, which is kind of is just like we're going even further into masculinity, into kind of the caricature of the guy who has an affair at this point in his marriage because of maybe wanting to be more masculine, whereas we have Richie as kind of arrested development. So they're not very rewarding characters. I guess Janet as the object of kind of thing gets at the end. It's just sort of like, yeah, you got what you need. Fine, I'm going to bed. It's like I'm out of the story, and in the end, I think I was sort of out of that story as well. So, I didn't find this too terribly engaging. The dudes were just dudes, and they didn't kind of break free of their dudeness. Not that it can't be interesting dudeness, but this just was not it. All right. More Canadian short stories later. Oh, this is a Canadian short story that is set in the United States. So, this is always that thing of like Canadian author, maybe a Canadian author who grew up in the States, who was born in the States, grew up there, and then moved to Canada, and is still mining his experiences of the United States, or maybe just like he's decided to set it there versus like I can see this working equally well in suburban Ontario or suburban British Columbia where I'm at, and being a really boring story there too. All right.